Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we will present to you about Salamanca Statement and Biwako Millennium Framework. The first topic is Salamanca Statement. There are four aims or purposes in Salamanca Statement, which are they want to reaffirm that education is for all, include the person with disabilities, and they want to recognize the evidence of active participant that involved in this project. And the third, they want to recall that persons with disabilities have their right and have important roles in education system. And the last one, they want to notice or pay attention to all parties that are responsible to improve access of education for the special needs. There are five important contents in Salamanca Statement. The first one, what are the history behind the Salamanca Statement? Salamanca Statement comes from the World Conference for Special Education that involved by 92 governments and 25 international organizations that held in Salamanca, Spain from 7 until 10 June in 1994. They want to strive for reaffirm that education is for all, include with the person with disabilities. They also prepared some guidelines that they call them as a framework of action on special needs education. The number two, they want to proclaim that child has fundamental or basic right to education. As we know, each child has very unique characteristics, interests, abilities, and learning needs. So the education system should be designed and can be improved so the educational program can be implemented or accomplished. For the special education need, must have access to regular school. Regular school, the meaning by regular school is normal school, and the normal school with the inclusive orientation are the most effective. The point number three is government. Government play the most important roles in this project because they need to execute highest policy and budgetary priority to improve the education system. They need to put effort in early identification and intervention, includes the vocational aspect for inclusive education. The third, they should encourage and facilitate all the parties those involved in special education need. And the last one, the government need to prepare teacher education program specialized in special educational needs so the teacher have the basic knowledge and they can prepare the classroom management wisely. The fourth one is international community. It involves government, international cooperation programs, international funding agencies, non-governmental organizations, UNESCO, and etc. For this part, they need to endorse or declare the approach of inclusive schooling and support all the effort to develop special needs education. And they need to give full cooperation and networking for this project. And for the NGO, they need to strengthen the collaboration with the official national bodies and grow up their involvement in inclusive provision. UNESCO also play the important roles. They need to ensure that education is for all, include the person with disabilities. They need to give support of organization of the teaching profession in special educational needs, and they need to expand their research and networking and establish regional centers of information and documentation, and also organize and mobilize funds for next medium-term plan. The last one is appreciation part. Okay, we go to the framework for action on special needs education in Salamanca statement. This framework is a standard rules on the equalization of opportunities for persons with disabilities because as we know, every child has their right to education. School play the most important roles to accommodate all children. They must serve inclusive school and it can change the social perspective among people. Framework for action divided into three parts. The first part is new thinking in special needs education. It focuses on inclusive school because inclusive school must serve the best special educational needs for the community, and it must make sure that all students learn together regardless of any difficulties and differences. Inclusive school must build the solidarity between children with special needs and their peers, also with the normal student. The countries that have small amount of inclusive school will be advised to concentrate their effort on the development of inclusive school and specialized service needed. Inclusive school must give equality and equity between men and women. And through inclusive school, the adult with disabilities can have basic skill through the inclusive school by giving special education program. And the last one, educational planning by government concentrate education for all, regardless of type of person, regions, and economic conditions.
Okay, next, my name is Anisna Shifa Medal Razak. And now we move to the second framework for action for the Salamanca statement, which is guidelines for action at the national level. And actually, there are so many facts and action taken to implement the Salamanca statement, and I just take a bit of it to share with you guys. Okay, next, policy and organization. Okay, first, legislation should recognize the equality for the children, youth, and adults with disabilities in primary, secondary, and tertiary education carried out in so far as possible, which means the legislation or government should aware the equality for the children with disabilities in whatever type of education, primary, secondary, or even tertiary education. Okay, next, special attention should be paid to the needs of children and youth with severe or multiple disabilities. Okay, next, both policies and financing arrangements should encourage and help to facilitate the development of inclusive school. And the last one is educational policies should take full account of individual differences and situation. For example, the individual situation is they are deaf. So the educational policies should know the importance of sign language as the medium of communication among the deaf. So this is to ensure that all deaf persons have access to education in their national sign of language. Okay, next one is school factors. Okay, in these school factors, they have to develop inclusive school that meet the needs for a wide range of pupils in both urban and rural areas. And first, they have to provide clear and forceful policy together with sufficient financial support. Second, they have to give an effective information effort to prevent or to combat prejudice and create student who is well informed and have positive attitude. And the last one, they should make an extensive program of orientation and staff training and also provide necessary support services. Okay, in terms of curriculum flexibility, curriculum should be adapted to children's needs, not vice versa. And the school should provide curricular opportunities that suit children with different abilities and interests. Okay, the second one is children with special needs should receive additional instructional support in context of the regular curriculum or same curriculum, not a different curriculum. The guiding principle should provide all children with the same education, providing additional assistance and support to children who require it. Okay, next, school management. Local administrators and school head play a major role to make the school with special needs students more responsive if the students are given necessary authority and sufficient training. Second, school head play a special responsibility in promoting positive attitudes throughout the school community. And last one, each school community, whether the teacher, the staff, or even the student, accountable or have a responsibility for the success or failure of every student. Okay, next, recruitment and training of educational personnel. Okay, the term of educational personnel refers to those persons who provide services within an educational setting. For example, the teachers, interveners, paraprofessional, therapists, and other persons who provide the service. First, pre-service training programs should be provided to all teachers, whether primary or secondary. Okay, next, the skills required to respond to special educational needs are needed during assessment of studies and teacher certification. And as a matter of priority, written materials should be prepared and should organize seminars for local administrators, supervisors, head teachers, and senior teachers to develop their capacity and to provide leadership in this area, and also to support and train less experienced teaching staff. Next, universities have a major role to play in the process of developing special needs education. And lastly, special needs students need to interact with adults with disabilities who have achieved success so that they can pattern or make their own lifestyle and aspiration and realistic expectations. Next is external support services. Okay, first in these external support services, teacher, education institutions, and the outreach staff of special schools should support to the ordinary schools. And external support given by various agencies, departments, and institutions such as advisory teachers, educational psychologists, speech and occupational therapists should be coordinated at the local level.
on to the second policy for the disabled, which is Biwako Millennium Framework for Action. As you can see here, these are the contents of the Biwako Millennium Framework for Action that we will be explaining later on.
So, firstly, we will move to the introductions. In introduction, we need to know their history and main goals. So, this is the history of declaration. This declaration was held on 25th to 28th October 2002 at Shiga, Japan. The declaration of Biwako. The name Biwako was inspired by the lake's name, Biwa, which located nearly to Shiga, Japan. As you can see, the background for the Biwako slide is show the lake named Biwa. This declaration is a set of guidelines which together with Asian Pacific Decade of Disabled Person. Then, these are the main goals of the Biwako declarations. These three main goals were set in order to avoid the barrier and gap between normal person and person with disabilities. Next, these are the 9 principles and policy direction of the Biwako. First, enforce legislation and policies related. Second, include disability dimensions. Third, establish or strengthen national coordination committees on disabilities. Fourth, support the development of persons with disabilities and their organization and include them in the national policy decision-making process. Fifth, ensure that disabled persons be an integral part of efforts. 6. Strengthen national capacity in data collections and analysis concerning disability statistics. 7. Adopt a policy of early intervention in all multisectoral areas. 8. Strengthen community-based approach. And 9. Adopt the concept of universal and inclusive design for all citizens. Then, these are the priority areas for action in Biwako. So, the items that you can see in the round shape are the areas that this declaration prioritize more, which are self-help organization of persons with disabilities and women with disabilities. So, we will go to the first area, self-help organization of persons with disabilities, related family and parent associations. These are the critical issues for this area, where the person with disabilities face discrimination in the decision-making process. These are the targets for these areas. First, by 2004, government, international funding agencies, and NGOs established policies with the requisite resource allocations. And second, by 2005, governments and civil society organizations fully include organizations of persons with disabilities in their decision-making process. So, in order to achieve those targets, the government implement measures under the direction of the National Coordination Committee on Disability. Second, the government established a policy review panel within the National Coordination Committee on Disability. And third, the government take action to increase the representation of persons with disabilities. Next, the second area, women with disabilities. Critical issue for this priority area, women with disabilities often face difficulties in their life and society, as mentioned in. Then, these are the targets for these areas. First, by 2005, the government take necessary actions to protect the right of women with disabilities. Second, by 2005, national self-help organizations provide full participation and representation to women with disadvantage. And third, by also 2005, Women Association of the Mainstream ensure membership for women with disabilities. So, these are the actions in order to achieve the targets. First, the government should implement measures to uphold the rights of women with disabilities. Second, government and NGOs should organize awareness programs. Third, self-help organization of people with disabilities should ensure the women with disabilities are represented. Fourth, self-help organizations should ensure that women with disabilities constitute at least half of their delegations. And fifth, women with disabilities should be provided special leadership training classes by the government and NGOs. Then, the third area, early detection, intervention, and education. In this area, there is a Millennium Development Goal, which is by 2015, the children with disabilities will be able to complete the full course of primary schooling and they will have equal access to all levels of education. These are the actions that can be done by the government, Ministry of Education, Ministries of Health and other concerned ministries, and also other organizations and community-based agencies. The fourth priority area, training and employment, including self-employment. These are the actions that can be done by the government to ensure the person with disabilities have their rights in training and employment. Next, these are the other actions that can be done. First, funds must be allocated to meet the needs of those with the most extensive disabilities to provide training and employment service. Second, recognizing the lack of formal job opportunities in many countries. And last but not least, regional organizations, including those of persons with disabilities, in collaboration with national governments and international agencies, should develop mechanisms for the collection and disseminations of information related to good practice in all aspects of training and employment.
Moving on to the fifth priority areas for action, which is access to built environments and public transports. The critical issue here is that we would like to avoid discrimination by providing universal or inclusive design of the built environments, streets, and transport systems. Therefore, the action needed is first, collaboration of governments with disabled persons organizations and civil society groups, which allow them to exchange information and ideas to realize accessible environments. Second, inclusive design principles are to be included in professional education and academic courses, which allow students to know how to make a practical, accessible design for the disabled. Third, encourage innovative techniques, which includes identifying aspects that enhance accessibility and applying local knowledge and materials for inclusive design concepts. Sixth priority areas for action is access to information and communications. The critical issue here is that ICT is largely limited only for those disabled in more developed countries. These are some actions that can be done under the Biwako Millennium Framework for Action. First, governments should enforce laws to monitor and protect the rights of persons with disabilities. Second, government should set up an ICT accessibility unit within the ICT Ministry or regulatory agency. Third, conduct and encourage awareness. Why? To raise understanding of disability issue, their needs, their capability, and aspiration to contribute to society. Seventh priority areas for action is poverty alleviation, which includes capacity building, social security, and sustainable livelihood programs. It is estimated that 400 million persons with disability live in poverty. These are the actions needed. First, persons with disabilities should be included as a major target group for their national poverty alleviation programs. Second, they should always allocate adequate funds so that rural development and poverty alleviation can be successfully implemented. And third, the government need to design and adopt a national strategy to prevent the causes of disabilities and allow rehab for persons with disabilities. Moving on to the strategies. First, comprehensive national plan that aims to integrate persons with disabilities into mainstream development plans and programs. Second, to promote rights of the disabled, which includes civil, cultural, economic, political, and social rights. Third, to ensure the current statistics of the disabled for easier planning. And fourth, to strengthen community-based approaches. Cooperation and support that can be done is within three levels. First, sub-regional includes countries in same sub-region where they will be collaborating with relevant NGOs. Second, regional, where they will be collaborating with Asian and Pacific Development Center on Disability. And the third one is inter-regional, which is the international level, including the Asian and Pacific region, African region, Western Asian region, where they will be exchanging expertise to benefit all regions. So, how will they monitor and review? First, by conducting meeting, which includes regional and sub-regional meetings, to review achievements, identify actions required, and to focus on target each time. Second is by organizing working group where they will be meeting regularly to coordinate and monitor. And the third one is midpoint review, where they will be review the first half of the decade, so if they can modify anything and improve for the another second half of the decade. We are going to the Islamic perspective. First, Rasulullah as role model. As we know, in Rasulullah's leadership in Medina, he was a very good leader where he never discriminated anyone regardless of their background or their attitude. So who are we to discriminate people? Second, justice and human rights. Everyone have their own basic rights that we must address and protect. So we must always make sure that the disabled will always have equal access as the other normal people in this world. And the third one is teacher's duty. I believe that this policy is one of the best guidelines for the teachers to convey their knowledge to the disabled students successfully.